the video today is going to be a little bit of a longer one because I ended up tackling like a full spread of the sketchbook, or 2 pages. And what I'm actually doing is drawing a second spread of chickens in my sketchbook, because the first one that I did, the recording was just a nightmare and a mess, and like half of it wasn't recorded. And I'm still learning. I'm still definitely on my sort of the earlier end of learning how to record videos. So if you're new around here, hi, hello, how are you? Feel free to suss out the vibes. I like to create super chill art content and create a dope atmosphere that everyone can hopefully enjoy. I really like to just chat while I show you guys what I've been up to recently and the kinds of art that I want to make. And if that sounds like something that you'd like to be a part of, feel free to watch the video and be a part of my channel. If you're not new around here, what is up, my dudes? I hope you're having a great day, and I'm super excited to get into this sketchbook spread of chickens. As you can see, my cat had to stop by and say hello, knock my camera around, stand on my sketchbook, lay down, and refuse to leave, which was, adorable, but he's definitely a pain in the butt, that's for sure. But yeah, today is just a sketchbook spread page. I kind of do like a collage of chickens on the left page, and on the right page I'm doing a larger like painting of the little sketch that you can see on my tiny sketchbook that's in the top right corner of like someone's hand holding like a little chick. Originally it was still going to be a little chick, but it kind of ends up just looking more like a brown or red bird, so we're just gonna go with that. Hands are definitely still a priority for me. I'm trying to make sure that I can get a little bit more efficient at drawing them, a little bit more comfortable drawing them. They're definitely not the easiest. I think like the general shape and form is something that I'm totally comfortable with, but when it comes to where the individual fingers should, I guess, be positioned, depending on how the hand is interacting with an object or not, is definitely pretty difficult for me to figure out. I have a hard time understanding where the fingers should go. I thought it would be really funny if I added like some crooked wings of the bird coming out from the hand, like it's not exactly happy that it's trapped in this hand. Someone just kind of like reached up and snatched it out of the air, and this is its reaction to what's happening, or what has just happened. But chickens are honestly one of my favorite things to draw. I adore them. They are like a comfort to me, and I just always have a really fun time drawing the feathers and finding new and intricate ways to draw the feathers, and I'm really excited to start drawing them, not only interacting with each other, but interacting with things around them, because up until this point, honestly, it's a lot of doodling chickens, but a lot of doodling like stagnant chickens that aren't really doing anything. And so for this sketchbook spread, I wanted them to be interacting with things a little bit more, similar to one of the pages in my smaller sketchbook that I just finished, where someone's sort of holding a chicken above their head. I wanted the vibe to be something similar to that. And then you can also see here I'm folding over the back side of the sketchbook to make it a little bit easier to sketch, because on the left side of the sketchbook, I find it really difficult with the spirals to get close to the edge of the page. It kind of, my hand rests on the spirals and it's just like super annoying, but that's like the only gripe I have about the spiral sketchbook, and I do honestly like really enjoy it, so I'm not exactly that mad about it. And then you saw me put my small sketchbook underneath the big one because I didn't want any grime to get on the paper, because honestly my desk is a mess. It's covered in watercolor paint and grime and eraser shavings and colored pencil shavings, and I just didn't want that getting on the bird that I had literally just sketched. I'm going through Pinterest and just, putting in different things, putting in different phrases and words to get ideas for what I wanted to draw, because I almost always have a reference of some kind. Not always, especially once I'm warmed up and have drawn quite a few. You'll see on this page there are a couple that do kind of just come from my head and what I'm learning as I'm drawing, but some of them I really enjoy just looking at a reference and then being like, okay, so what does this look like to me? How would I draw this? And then drawing it. So here's me trying to draw like a bearded dude holding a really, really big chicken. I fell in love with this photo. I want to know where I can hold a chicken that's as big as the one that this guy's holding, because I swear to God, I'm a small person. I guarantee you that thing is as big as me. As you can see here, the speed is actually like pretty fast. I'm doing it like 5 times speed, or setting the video at about like 5 times speed. And the reason that I'm doing that is because honestly, I just ended up filming a lot of content for this and not necessarily wanting to cut a lot of it out. So I just decided to speed it up. I feel like that's a pretty normal thing to do. And so I wanted to speed it up so that the video wouldn't be crazy long. But I've mentioned in previous voiceovers that I really, really like long videos where the person is just kind of talking about, I don't know, anything. Their subject matter, what inspired them for the spread or the painting, what they were watching while they were drawing and painting and filling their sketchbook, or anything like that. I really like the kind of constant engagement and chatter of someone talking about how they decided to go about what they were sketching or what they were doing while they were sketching. And as you can see, my cat makes multiple appearances in this video, and I don't know what he wanted. I think his food bowl is empty. He's a dude. His name is Ruckus, and he just really hates it when his food bowl is empty. I think what we should have done is trained him to like only be fed at certain times, but my parents had never had an issue with a cat being so demanding about their food bowl before, and the cats previously that we'd had in the family had no issue with the food being down and had a lot of self-control. Ruckus does not have any self-control, and so what you're seeing in this video is the product of me refusing to fill his food bowl and him retaliating by ruining my video. But I'm really trying to focus on the chickens interacting with things, interacting with people, with each other. As you can see here, there's like a cat standing on a chicken, which I thought was hilarious. I don't know if it's real or not, but I still really liked it, and it inspired me to want to draw a cat like sitting on a chicken, like reaching up to grab something, and so that's what you're seeing me do here. And then I also drew, let's see, I have like this chicken. I've noticed, actually, to put a pin in it for a second, I've noticed that sometimes my sketches are a little bit faint, and that's oftentimes why I do go over them with that colored pencil, is not only because I like having the sketch in the background, but because I wanted to, but I've noticed, I guess, that it makes it easier for you guys to actually see the sketches that I'm doodling. So that's also why I have this sped up so fast, because I know that you can't completely see everything that's going on. And then the chicken that I have going, or the chicken that I'm drawing right here, is literally my favorite one on the spread. I love him. I actually thought he was from my head, so it's funny to see the reference, because I didn't realize that I had pulled a reference, but I can't, like, get over the fact that someone's just, like, holding this chicken, like, oh my god, please take it away from me, please. Like, as far from their body as humanly possible. So I'd love to maybe actually draw a person holding a chicken like that, inspired from this sketch, maybe later or something like that. And then this little doodle, as you can see, is coming from a video of this like mama chicken and her little chicklets just like wandering around her, and so I ended up wanting to doodle that, and I'm actually currently working on a piece or like a painting in the sketchbook in a couple pages from now that is exactly that idea of just these little chiclets like walking around on a mama chicken. So it's funny to see that because that's probably where I got the idea from. We're officially getting into darkening the lines territory. As you can see, I'm doing kind of both spreads simultaneously, which is why also this video is a little bit longer, because I wanted to work on these two spreads together, and in doing so it kind of like doubled the length of the videos or this video compared to the videos that I've been making. And so yeah, you're just gonna see me go over, this is a Caran d'Ache pencil in, I think it's just yellow ochre. I'll have to check. But it's literally my favorite. You can see it's getting a little nubby. I'm gonna have to get one of those colored pencil extenders because I don't know how I'm gonna survive without this colored pencil. I need it in my life. I'm also noticing, I think on this spread or maybe in the spread directly after this, that my Copics, some of the ones I use a lot, are starting to run dry. So I'm going to need to get some ink refills, probably from Blick. I don't know if there's a better place to get Copic refills, so let me know if you know of a good way to get Copic refills, because I'm gonna need them very, very soon. And I'm probably gonna need another one of these colored pencils because I absolutely adore it. So the colored pencil I just got up and checked is Burnt Ochre from Caran d'Ache Luminance. And then my other favorite colored pencil is Faber-Castell's Earth Green, and I'm gonna need to get like I guess not a refill, but I'm gonna need to get both of those again very soon because I use them all the time. I'm not even like a big fan of orange, but something switched in my brain one day where I was like looking at my watercolor palette and I sat there and I just went, oh my god, I think that this raw sienna is like an orange color. And this raw sienna that I use for this page and for spreads that you'll see later is Winsor Newton Cotman's raw sienna. I don't know why I like it more than the normal sienna, just the Winsor Newton, or raw sienna. But yeah, I really like the lightness of the Cotman one, which I know is kind of what makes it less quality or less of good quality than their professional line, but I actually just really, really like and enjoy the lightness of that particular Cotman watercolor. They were one of the sets that I started with was the just whole, I guess the whole set of Winsor Newton Cotman that came. You could like buy it already in the pans, and they came in these little pans. And one of the things that annoyed the crap out of me about that particular set was that the paint in the pans, because it was like so perfectly molded to the pan, it always fell out because it just didn't have anything holding it in. So I guess that would mean it's not really perfectly molded to the pan, but you know what I mean. So here I am adding that raw sienna. Oh, actually, as I'm watching this back, I'm not using raw sienna. I'm using Red Earth from an Etsy seller that I purchased from a long time ago. And this I can't remember if it's called like Cecil Green or something like that, but I'm also using that color in the chickens because I'm looking at that sketchbook page from my tiny sketchbook, and I loved the green and the orange, so I wanted to continue with that. And I keep bumping the camera. Eventually, I'm hoping to be able to stop doing that and actually just like have a video that's completely smooth, because I cannot get over how many times I bump this thing. But right now, it's because my setup is like this, it's not like a tripod, but it like attaches to my desk and it kind of dangles over where I'm drawing, and because of where I have to attach it on my desk, it kind of wiggles when I hit the desk or accidentally hit it. So I'm hoping for, I don't know, I want to try and find another thing that I can like attach it to that's next to my desk, so that way it doesn't wiggle when I bump the desk or accidentally bump it. Watercolors were actually the first paint medium that I learned to work with, or I guess the first paint medium that I chose in my free time to use. I did take, let's see, in my middle school into high school, I took quite a few art classes, and we did have to learn how to use acrylics, oil pastel. Watercolor was one of them, which funny enough was like my least favorite paint to use at the time, but now I really understand it, and I have such a hard time using anything else, because I guess like the thing with watercolor is that it works completely different than most other paints, right? Where you're working from light to dark with watercolor, but in all other instances of using paint, you're working from dark to light, like with gouache, acrylics, anything like that, really, Posca pens even, you know, you're working in a completely different way. And so I'm so used to working with watercolors. I think that's why acrylics just don't agree with me, because I'm sit there and I look at like what I'm trying to do, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I have no idea what I'm doing. It like breaks my brain because I'm trying to approach it like watercolor. And actually, it was just literally yesterday that I painted with gouache and made a painting that I literally love. We'll see how I feel about it in a couple days, but I'm actually really proud of it. So that was my first like big painting with gouache, because it just hurts my head to try and paint with it. I don't know, with all the experience I have with watercolor, it doesn't always make sense. But yesterday, apparently, it clicked, which was a big win in my book. You see a bunch of like cuts in my videos where sometimes the camera gets like a little bit closer for some reason, because I let my watercolors just like air dry because I have other stuff to do during the day. So like I paint a little bit and then I'll chill in my bed and watch something, or I'll go clean, or you know, whatever I need to do for the day, or go on a walk. And so it's like not a big deal for me to just let it air dry, because I don't have one of those I don't really know what they're called, but they just use like heat, and it doesn't move the watercolor, where like a hair dryer, if you have like a puddle of watercolor and you kind of want it to be that saturated and liquidy at the moment, if you try and blow dry it, it will like push that puddle of water across your sketchbook page or across your painting. So I actually just let it air dry, because most of the time I'm working small enough that it doesn't matter, or I have something to do. So it's not a big deal to just let it dry. But obviously I know that if I had one of those things, if I had one of those like heat drying things that you just kind of like hold in your hand and they look kind of pocket sized, then you guys would be able to kind of watch the paint dry, which I've always found to be a pretty satisfying thing to watch, like how it goes from a little bit dark to very light with watercolor, and you might have to like do another pass, and you might realize, anyways, yeah, so I feel like I should invest in one of those, because it would make obviously the entire painting process a little bit faster, like in real time, even though it doesn't matter to what you're watching now. One of the things about the hand that was like driving me nuts was that the photo reference that I used, the like index finger, was kind of tucked behind. I can't remember what they were holding. It might have even been like a bird or a little chick that I was using as reference. And their index finger was like tucked behind the little chick that they were holding. So as you can see in my hand, I've kind of done the same thing, where it would be kind of behind the wing. And when you just look at it at first glance, it looks like I accidentally forgot a finger, but I didn't. It's just that the index finger is behind that wing, kind of gripping onto it, or maybe extended with the wing. Where the other three are kind of wrapping around the body fully. But on first glance, I always have a heart attack, because I'm like, oh my god, I only gave it 3 fingers and a thumb, but that's actually not the case. Particularly when I sketch chickens, I noticed that the marker really seems to bring the sketches to life. I love watercolor and I love using it as a base, but I'm definitely like a mixed media artist where I always start with watercolor and then I progress from there with colored pencil and Copic markers. Though I have heard that Ohuhu markers are kind of making a whole ruckus because, speaking of my cat, but they're making like a whole deal because some of their markers are refillable, so I don't know if maybe that would be a good choice for me to try some of those out, because I do have a few colors in Copic markers that I still want to get that I think would be really cool. But I don't know, I've loved my Copic markers. I can't do like a full sketch or painting in marker. It's just not the way that I work. Talk about like breaking my brain. If I can't do acrylics, I definitely can't use marker. I can't deal with like trying to make sure it's not patchy, and I can't deal with the fact that like it'll smudge graphite. And so using it as like an accent to what I'm doing or as an added texture is normally what I do, because I love that I can get perfect little dots with it if I want to do a speckled texture. I love that with the brush tip I can get those streaks that look like feathers on the birds or on the chickens, which I love. And I like that it adds a good dose of vibrancy and saturation that the watercolor doesn't necessarily always have, at least the ones that I use. They're very earthy, very muted, and that's the way that I like it. And so I like going in with a more controlled medium like marker and colored pencil to add a little bit of saturation if I want it. On this spread particularly, adding those little details was really making me like happy, because it was really pulling everything together before I even inked it, which normally I definitely need to like ink and put the ballpoint pen to the paper into the sketches to start feeling like, okay, we're good, everything's good. Because until I get that like nice structured outline, everything looks like it's just floating around. You know, there's not enough structure to the sketches alone with the way that I paint to give them a solid border and a solid shape and silhouette. So adding that ink almost always makes me very happy, because it finally starts to look the way that I want it to. But in this case, I adored the marker details. They just really felt like they were wrapping everything up and making the chickens look more like the way that I want them to. Particularly the dude holding the very large chicken, he definitely comes to life more when I bring in the ballpoint pen, because right now he's just a little bit flat, and when I add the pen and some of the textures to like his beard and his coat and hat, I quite like the way that he turned out for just a little very quick doodle of a dude. I'm still definitely figuring out how I want to draw people. I think I want to do like the 100 heads challenge, where I just get a better feel for anatomically correct shapes and features, and then continue to break down how I want to go about stylizing people, because it's something that I started with, and it was one of the first things that I learned was people anatomy, and all I wanted to do was draw people, which is hilarious because normally everyone's, pretty scared of drawing people, but especially in today's day and age where I was kind of like in the Tumblr crowd, like drawing awkwardly sexy teenagers was like the thing to do. So I definitely started with drawing people, and then gradually grew into an understanding that I don't like drawing people that much. I want to draw things and animals and weird shit. So that's what I started doing, and I strayed away from people, and then I got kind of scared of drawing people. And so I've started following a bunch of different creators and trying to understand, how do I want to draw people, and beyond that, how do people fit into the way that I have learned to draw animals and creatures and backgrounds and settings? Because yes, like my natural style of drawing people is very pseudo-anime with a hint of, Western culture thrown in with harsh jaw lines and too many hot people. But it's a little bit, jokes aside, it's a little bit more realistic in a way, and a little bit less, I don't know, like relying on paint strokes and marker strokes and texture. And I really want the people that interact with my creatures to look like they belong in the universe that I'm creating with my art. And so I'm kind of fighting my natural instinct to draw in a particular way. I don't know if any of you would be familiar with, I think it's Tematica. on Instagram. She has absolutely beautifully drawn people. I adore the way that she draws people and the settings that she puts them in. Also, The Last Coffee Bean is one of my favorite YouTubers right now, and she draws like, it's so cool, the like cluttered backgrounds and the dark dinginess to her sketchbook spreads, and the way that she draws people, they just feel so real and flawed in a way that I love. But I guess the way that I draw things that aren't people is a lot more similar to something like, I don't know, gel arts, maybe a little bit of fawn wood. I don't know if you guys would be familiar with Dina Norland, but a lot of artists who draw more animal, more whimsical, less based in reality, and a lot less focused on getting facial features super detailed, and more about like the expressions on these people's faces and the way that the paint interacts with the people that you're painting, or the way that the medium interacts with the people that you're painting. It's a lot less about that Tumblr-esque sketchiness and a little bit more about just like derpiness, honestly. But personally, I love and adore the way that someone like, you know what, let me look up her name so I'm pronouncing it correctly. So it's Tomatka, but I'll probably like put it up on the screen so that way anyone who wants to find them can find their work, particularly on Instagram. I'm not sure that they have YouTube. I think they might have a long time ago, but they don't anymore. And then another artist that I love the way that they draw people is Nat Orsh on Instagram. The way that they just encapsulate this cuteness and the really soft smiles and expressions on people, I envy a lot. And I'm definitely using them as a huge inspiration, but talking about people, you know, that I love the way they draw, but it's not really reflective of the style that I've created, is definitely like Tomatka, The Last Coffee Bean. I used to follow a lot more people that had that Tumblr-esque style, where it's very like flat color, super sketchy, and the people are incredibly diverse, but very detailed and angular and edgy. And I like definitely feel that and want to draw people like that, and it's definitely how I naturally want to draw them. But I'm trying really hard to make sure that the people that I draw make me laugh as hard as the doodles. And so I'm trying to lean more into a soft doodliness than a harsher, like sexier, grungier version of people. You can see with the line work, the dude, I feel like he really came to life. I'm quite happy with the really simple hands and just like the way that he's holding the chicken. I'm actually really happy with the way that sketch turned out. And normally you'll see as I'm inking things that I try to save like the best for last, but at the same time, if I don't work from left to right, which I'm still trying to remember to do 9 times out of 10, but if I don't do that, sometimes the, a Blick ball pen? Yeah, Blick ballpoint pen, that's what they're called. Sometimes it will smear, or particularly like my hand will pick up some ink and then smudge it across something else, which is just so sad and awful. So I'm trying to avoid that by doing the whole go from left to right, so that way I don't smudge anything. But yeah, I just the same thing as always happens, you know. It gives my sketches a lot of structure, and in the end I end up really liking the way that they look the second that the outline goes on, though it doesn't always save everything. Like with I've already recorded the voiceover for it, but this spread will probably go up first. But I've recorded a page of ducks, and it went terribly. The line art helped, but it was not enough. And so I actually end up going over those pages and doing it over again, which will be probably another video entirely because I don't want to waste that footage. And I was still really happy with some of the sketches. And then I think it would be interesting to, I don't know, just show you guys what I've learned and how I would approach a page once I'm more familiar with the content that I'm trying to doodle and draw. I kind of took a break from the painting for a second and just focused on the sketchbook spread because I was having a really fun time with those chicken doodles. And then I decided to kind of return to the bird that's being clasped by the hand so that I could just focus on it and take what I learned from that page and apply it to the bird to make it the best that it can be, because sometimes I feel like I over render specifically just like random birds. So I really didn't want to over render the wings or the textures and the feathers or anything like that. I wanted it to stay nice and simple but properly detailed. And then you can see I flip the sketchbook around and I start painting those green squares in the background just to highlight the sketches that I was particularly fond of at the time. And I like that it kind of breaks up the background a little bit, adds just a little bit more depth to the whole thing. I love looking back at old spreads or old sketchbook spreads that I really like, because I don't ever want to forget about what I painted or the way that I did something that I really liked in a spread. I don't want it to be, like a one-off thing. I want to make sure that I learn it and integrate it into the way that I'm actually painting and drawing and doing these pieces, because I don't want to lose the feeling that I really appreciated in one spread, go to another, and then it loses all of that. I want to make sure that I continue to go back and be inspired by the art that I made, that I'm really proud of and I really like, and I want to use that and pull from it into other pieces and other sketchbook spreads to make them something that I will also greatly enjoy. Scott Sava is actually someone that I love watching, not just because he's like such a friendly person and someone that I find incredibly, I don't know, I'm not even always particularly like, I just love the way that you painted this, but I really enjoy his content and his attitude, and I find a lot of inspiration particularly in the way that he layers paint to create, specifically layers watercolor, to create beautiful textures and layers. And so when I was drawing and painting this hand, I was trying to kind of take inspiration and learn something from the way that he draws to make this hand look a little bit more lively in the different layers and textures that I add using the watercolor. And honestly, in the end, I'm really happy with the way that the hand turned out. I think that it's properly got like punches of color and isn't super realistic, but fits with the bird that it's holding, and I'm overall really happy with the way that this piece particularly turned out. I think that I had a lot of fun drawing it, and it makes me laugh looking at the bird and its stupid tongue, coming out of its mouth like, please let me go, I wasn't prepared for this. I keep getting a little frustrated with myself that I keep bumping the camera and then the camera keeps shaking. But overall, like, I am happy with the way that my videos have been turning out so far, and I'm pretty, like, content with the setup that I have right now. I just wish that I could hook the, like, thing that's holding my camera onto something that's not my desk, so I wouldn't keep bumping my desk and bumping it, or every time I erase, it's like so aggressive that it starts to shake the camera a little bit. But other than that, I'm like pretty happy with like the quality of the footage that I'm getting and what it looks like, and just the way this entire process of creating videos has been going. I'm like feeling okay and feeling like even if people don't necessarily catch on or like it right away, I feel like my content is worth putting out into the internet, and I feel like it's worth watching because I'm genuinely creating something that I'm proud of and happy with and experimenting, and I think that hopefully people will appreciate that and appreciate the time and effort that I put into trying to make this look as professional as possible. In the end, I am actually really happy with the bird. I feel like it wasn't muddy or over-rendered, and it ended up looking exactly how I wanted it to, and just as like chaotic as I wanted it to. And that was really cool. So I have this final tape pull, and we're gonna look at some close-up shots of both this painting and the sketchbook spread, focus a little bit on some of the sketches that I really liked, and close out the video. I definitely feel like I'm still kind of learning how to do like close-up shots and how to show you guys a little bit closer up what my sketches look like and making that interesting and engaging. But overall, I'm very happy with the way that all of this turned out, and I hope that the chickens make you guys laugh a little bit too, because every time I look at them, specifically the guy holding like the really big chicken, or the one that I drew the green square in the top left corner around, every time I look at those two, they make me laugh a little bit. The only sketch I didn't like absolutely love on the page was the one of like the chicken facing us as the audience, but honestly I've been meaning to try and draw like more head-on chickens, because it's just not something that I do a whole lot. I'm not super comfortable with it, and I don't really feel like it turns out when I do it, but it's good practice, and I'm just gonna keep doing that, and I'm gonna keep trying to add little head first shots of chickens, and maybe eventually I will get it to a point where I'm a little bit more proud of it. But with all of that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed the content. Feel free to drop a like, leave a comment, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!